Hi, I'm Amy, this is the Opinionated Woman, and welcome to a try a chapter video. I've never done a try a chapter video, but if you watched my book stock up video, I had just bought a bunch of books and just gone to the library. So I have just finished my library book, so I need to know what book to read. And I have a selection, which is above me on my little TBR shelf, and I don't know what to read. So we're going to try a chapter together and we're going to figure out my next read. So there are 7 books to go through. I have no idea how long these chapters are. I'm hoping that they're pretty short. But yeah, we're going to sit down. We're going to read the first chapter of 7 books. I'm going to give them a rating out of 10. And we're going to decide which book I'm going to read. So let's get into it. The first book we're going to get into is In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This is a thriller. Okay, I got my notebook, I got my coffee, pile of books is over there. Let's get to it. Okay, well, the first one was a very quick one. There was like a page of like prequel kind of thing, just literally like a page, and then the first chapter was a page as well, so it was literally 1, 2, and then chapter 2 there. So these chapters were basically just for intrigue, and that's exactly what you're looking for in a thriller. Like in the first chapter, she's like running through a forest. You can tell she's being chased. She's like got to get somewhere. She's like going to the road and she's trying to stop a car. And then in the first chapter, she's in the hospital and she's being taken for a scan. So I'm really intrigued as to finding out what happens in this. This book is set during a bachelorette weekend when they're staying in like a forest, and apparently secrets come out. So intrigue for a dark, dark wood. I'd give intrigue an 8 or a 9. It was a really good punchy first chapter. Let's call that a 9. Next is The Burning Chamber by Kate Mosse. This is set in 1562 in Carcassonne in France, and I think it's some kind of mystery. I have to be honest, I'm not quite sure if I knew what this book was about before I started reading it, because I only read the intro that you need to know before going into it, and it's all about religious wars. And like, I grew up Catholic, I have a lot of religious trauma. I do not like reading about any form of religion. I'm very atheist. And it literally is just talking about monks and monasteries and religious war and displacement, and that's not something that I want to read. So I know the place that I got this book from does a exchange program. So if you got the book there, you can exchange it for another one. So maybe I'll take this and do that, because not the one. Next we have Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee, which follows a heist of people trying to steal their native artifacts back from the British, the Americans. Okay, that's a really good first chapter as well. So it's from Will's point of view. It seems to be a few different point of views. And Will is being questioned about a a robbery that has gone on at the museum that he works at, and they're like quizzing him on it because they think he's involved, and he seems to be very convincing at the fact that he's not involved, but of course he is. That was very intriguing. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Then we have Behold the Dreamers by Imbolo and Mbue. This is about a Cameroonian couple who have moved to America, and them getting jobs within this rich family and how they become intertwined. Alright, so the first chapter of that was basically a main character whose name is Jende, getting a job interview to become a driver for a rich white man, basically, and him worrying about his English and whether he's wearing the right suit. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Phew! Phew! And him thinking back to the conversation that he had with his wife and then practicing different questions for the interview and things like that. And it already like makes you feel really empathetic towards him and like want to root for him. So like I've heard her writing is really great, and I can already tell from the first chapter. Though intrigue, because that's what I'm rating all of these on, intrigue maybe a 7. I think a 7. I'm not going down it on purpose, I promise. But I think we'll give it a 7 for now. This is not the order that I'm going to be reading the books in. I'm just going to read the most intriguing one first, that's all. And then I'll add whatever book I replace the Burning Chambers with to the fray. Next is another historical fiction. This is Instructions for a Heatwave by Maggie, and it follows a woman and her children because her husband has gone out for the newspaper. He's gone to buy a newspaper and he hasn't come back. Maggie O'Farrell. This bitch knows how to write. That was really good. That was really good. So I knew that the crux of the story was that this man had gone to get the paper, but I thought it was getting the paper in I've run off for a dalliance, you know, kind of way, where it's actually like just before he has this, just before he leaves, he has this moment where he sort of like pauses and zones out, you know, like Mitch McConnell, like when he keeps buffering. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, because he like stopped halfway through his sentence. And he says, "Oh yeah, no, I'm just going to go out and get the paper." And he goes out, and then she just goes through her routine of making soda bread and thinking about her children. And she's thinking about her one child, Aoife, who she's estranged from, and then her other 2 children that are closer to her that still live around her and things like that. So we get a really good idea of the complexities of the relationships between this woman and her children, which is very interesting because I think they're all going to come together. So yes, that one's very intriguing. I'm going to give it an 8. I think I'm getting better at picking my books because I very rarely read a book that I really don't like, because I take books off recommendations and I'm very attuned to what I like, which is why I'm not going to read The Burning Chambers, because I wouldn't enjoy it. So yeah, I'm getting good at picking books. Then we have Breathing Lessons by Anne Tyler. This is a sort of road trip historical fiction. I don't know when it's set. It was written a while back. But yes, it's set all in one day, and it's based around a funeral. Around a funeral. just looking at this cover, it looks so dry and slow. Like, it just looks dry and slow. It's just one of those covers that is just not well designed. But actually, this first chapter was really pacey. The conversation was like really good back and forth. So we're following Maggie, who she's just found out that her best friend's husband has died, and she's a state away. So her and her husband need to get in the car and go to drive to this funeral. And she hears someone that she knows on the radio as she's driving out of the garage, and she hits the accelerator instead of the brake, and she hits a Pepsi truck. But she's worried about being late, so she just drives away. And her husband is like, the fuck? Why did you do that? But they've been married for like 28 years. It's just, so they found out that his daughter-in-law is getting married or something like that. So it was interesting and pacey, more than I expected. I'll give it a good, I think I'll give it a 7 as well. And next up we have The Virgin Blue by Tracy Chevalier. This is a historical fiction set in, I don't know what time, but it's basically about Ella Turner, who goes to live in a small French town and to like investigate her ancestry, and then it also follows a timeline of one of her ancestors back in the day. Okay, that one was not as intriguing as all the others. It was kind of, I think it's just establishing our, because this happens in 2 different timelines. So this is establishing the historical backstory of this family. It's 400 years after this is set, and this is set in, it's contemporary as far as I can tell, so like in the 2000s. So we get introduced to this woman called Isabella du Moulin, and she has been suspected of witchcraft, basically. And it just talks about like the some of the really bad luck in her family. So I think is it her mother or her sister or her aunt, so one of her family members died in childbirth, and the child died at the same time, and then her mother gets attacked by a wolf and she dies. So it seems like a lot of negative shit happening, and I think that's what happens to cause her to go into this like marriage with a certain person that she doesn't seem to want to marry. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a 5, I think. Yes, 5. And now I am going to wrap up all my thoughts. Okay, this is the final ranking. In a Dark Dark Wood, Portrait of a Thief, Instructions for a Heatwave, and Behold the Dream is on the same level. Breathing Lessons, and then The Virgin Blue. So after I'm done with this, no, the next book that I'm going to read, because I'm done with my library book, is A Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. Huzzah! So thank you for coming with me on this little try a chapter tag. I'm glad I did this so that I can swap out that Kate Mosse book, because I don't want to be reading it and then stuck because I can't return it, and realizing that I actually bought a book by accident. That's not my vibe. So this was very useful. I know which book I'm going to read, and I'm going to get a new book for no money. 10 out of 10. So anyway, I hope you liked this Try the Chapter tag. If you've read any of these books, let me know which one you want me to read next. Don't tell me anything about it, no spoilers, but tell me which one of these books that you want to see me read next. If you want to see more from me, my social media is down below, along with this little Kofi link, which is like a little one-time tip jar if you ever feel like supporting my channel. But other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll check you next time.